Hello, today I'm gonna introduce you to the book J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. It's the first one, and it's quite good. The publish is by Bloomsbury, and the blurb says, turning the envelope over, his hands trembling, Harry saw a purple wax seal bearing a coat of arms, a lion, an eagle, a badger, a snake surrounding a large letter H. Harry Potter has never seen or even heard of Hogwarts when the letters started dropping doormats at the number 4 Privet Drive. Addressed in green ink on the yellow parchment was a purple seal. They were swiftly confiscated by his grisly aunt and uncle. Then, on Harry's 11th birthday, a great beetle-eyed giant of a man called Rubius Hagrid burst in with some astonishing news. Harry Potter was a wizard, and he had a place at Hogwarts School of Wizardry and Witchcraft and Wizardry. An incredible adventure is about to begin. So, it's a good book. I recommend it, and I'm sure you all know the Harry Potter series is rather famous, so I'll read a little bit of the front. So, if you want to skip this part, you can, but the recommendations say what the readers say. The only thing wrong with this is that you can't put it down. Fiona Chadwick, 9 years old. It's very funny. I'd love to be Harry and make up some magic spells to play on my teachers. Tom Elkshock, 11 years old. My mum loved it so much she would not let my dad read any of it to me. Alexander Ben, 7 and 9 quarters year old. It's all for ages and it's brilliant. Carnita Friends, 10 years old. What the newspaper says. Spellbinding, enchanting, bewitching stuff. Mirror. Teacher says a chapter can silence most rowdy of classes. Guardian. One of the greatest literature adventures of modern times. Sunday Telegraph. The Real Thing, the series of stories adored by parents and children alike. Daily Telegraph. So this is the first book, in case you don't know, and there is the Philosopher's Stone, and then the second one is Chamber of Secrets. Third one is Prisoner of Azkaban. Fourth one is Goblet of Fire, Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince, Deathly Hallows. And it also came out on, what was it called? A movie. They made all of them into movies. There are 7 books in total, but there are 8 movies because the Deathly Hallows is quite long, probably because it contains a lot of adventure, mind you. So that's Hogsmeade, where you can go in year 3 with permission. Forbidden Forests, Hagrid's Hut, Whimping Willow, which actually is Whimping. Greenhouses, you can guess what those are for. Quidditch Stadium. Quidditch is a game, in case you don't know. It's a game of balls. There's a ball called Bulger, Snitch, and Quaffle. There are 2 Bulgers, mind you. Hogsmeade Station. Chapter 1. The Boy Who Lived. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal, thank you very much. They were the last people you'd expect to be involved in anything strange or mysterious, just because they don't hold anything with such nonsense. Mr. Dursley was the director of a firm called Grunnings, which made drills. He was a big, beefy man with hardly any neck, although he did have a large mustache. Mrs. Dursley was thin and blonde, and had nearly twice the usual amount of neck, which came very useful as she spent most of her time craning over the garden fences, spying on the neighbours. The Dursleys had a small son called Dudley, and in their opinion, there was no finer boy anywhere. The Dursleys had everything they wanted, but they also had a secret, and their greatest fear was that somebody would discover it. They didn't think they could bear it if anyone found out about the Potters. Mrs. Potter was Mrs. Dursley's sister, but they haven't met for several years. In fact, Mrs. Dursley pretended she didn't have a sister because her sister was good for nothing and her husband was as un-Dursleyish as it could possibly be. The Dursleys shuddered to think what the neighbor would say if the Potters arrived in the street. The Dursleys knew the Potters had a small son too, but they never seen him. This boy was another good reason for keeping the Potters away. They didn't want Dursley mixing with a child like that. When Mr. and Mrs. Dursley woke up on a dull grey Tuesday for a story start, there was nothing about the cloudy sky outside to suggest the strange and mysterious things that would soon be happening all over the country. Mr. Dursley hummed as he picked out his most boring tie for work, and Mrs. Dursley gossiped away happily as she wrestled a screaming Dudley into his high chair. None of them noticed a large tawny owl flutter past the window. At 8:30, Mr. Dursley picked up his briefcase, pecked Mrs. Dursley on the cheek and tried to kiss Dudley goodbye, but missed, because Dudley was now having a tantrum and throwing cereal at the walls. "Little tyke," chortled Mr. Dursley as he left the house. He got into the car and backed up of number 4's drive. There was something in the corner of the street that he noticed the first time. It was something peculiar. A cat reading a map. For a second, Mr. Dursley didn't realize what he'd seen. Then he jerked his head around to look again. The tabby cat standing at the corner of Bird Drive, but there wasn't a map in sight. What could he been thinking of? It must have been a trick of the light. Mr. Dursley blinked and stared at the cat. It stared back. As Mr. Dursley drove around the corner and up the road, he watched the cat in his mirror. It was now reading a sign that says, "Privet Drive." No, looking at the sign. Cats can't read maps or signs. Mr. Dursley gave himself a little shake and put the cat out of his mind. As he drove towards the town, he thought of nothing except a large order of drills he was hoping to get that day. But at the town, drills were driven out of his mind by something else. He sat in the usual morning traffic jam. He couldn't help notice the people seemed a lot of strangely dressed people about. People in cloaks. Mr. Dursley couldn't bear people who dressed in funny clothes. The get-ups you saw on young people. He supposed this was some stupid new fashion. He drummed his fingers on the steering wheel and his eyes fell on the huddled weirdos standing quite close by. They were whispering excitedly together. Mr. Dursley was enraged to see that couple of them weren't young at all. Why, that man had to be older than he was, wearing an emerald green cloak. The nerve of him! But then it struck Mr. Dursley that something was probably some silly stunt. These people were obviously collecting for something. Yes, that would be it. The traffic moved on. A few minutes later, Mr. Dursley arrived at Grunning's car park, his mind back on drills. Mr. Dursley sat on his back, with his back to the window in his office on the 9th floor. If he hadn't, he might have found it harder to concentrate on drills that morning. He didn't see the owl swooping past on broad daylight, though people down in the street they did. They pointed and gazed open-mouthed as the owl after owl sped overhead. Most of them had never seen an owl even at night time. Mr. Dursley, however, had a perfectly normal, owl-free morning. He yelled at 5 different people. He made several important telephone calls and shouted a bit more. He was in a very good mood until lunchtime, where he thought he stretched his legs and walked across the road to buy himself a bun from the baker's opposite. He forgot all about the people in cloaks until he passed a group of them next to the baker's. He eyed them angrily as he passed. He didn't know why, but they made him uneasy. There was a lot of whispering excitedly too, and he couldn't see a single collecting tin. It was on his way back past them, collecting a large donut in a bag, that he caught a few words from what they were saying. "The Potters, that's right, that's what I heard. Yes, their son Harry." Mr. Dursley dropped dead. Fear flooded him. He looked back at the whisperers as if he wanted to say something to them, but he thought better of it. He dashed back across the road. hurried up to his office, snapped at his secretary not to disturb him, seized his telephone, and almost finished dialing his home number when he changed his mind. He put the receiver back down and stroked his mustache, thinking, no, he was being stupid. Potters weren't such an unusual name. He was sure there were lots of people called Potter who had a son called Harry. Anyways, that's the little bit of the first chapter up to page 5, top line, very top. If you have this book at home, you can try and read along maybe, even though I didn't think that was very good. And here's a bit I like. Animals by lunchtime wouldn't fall back on their favourite hobby of hitting them. They ate in the zoo restaurant, and when Dudley had a tantrum because his knickerbocker glory wasn't big enough, Vernon bought him another. Uncle Vernon bought him another one, and Harry was allowed to finish the first. Harry felt afterwards that he should have known it was all too good to last. After lunch, they went to the reptile house. It was cool and dark in the witch, with lit windows along the walls. Behind the glass, all sorts of lizards and snakes were crawling and slithering over bits of wood and stone. Dudley and Piers wanted to see a huge poisoned cobras and thick man-crushing pythons. Dudley quickly found the largest snake in place. It could have wrapped its body twice around Uncle Vernon's car and crushed it into a dustbin. But at the moment, it didn't look like it's in the mood. In fact, it was fast asleep. And it's quite fun. I really enjoy this book. I recommend it. And I'm sure other people did too. But there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video today. And hope you have a good day. Bye!